The latest Caribbean country to report COVID-19 cases is Barbados. Joining us via Skype is editor at Barbados Today, Julius Gittins. Julius, what's the reaction of the people to the announcement of 2 cases in Barbados? And has Barbados put any restrictions in place to prevent the spread?
Well, let me answer the first question first. The reaction is a little bit too early to gauge right now. It might likely be very much the same as it has been, as Barbadians have been bracing for this, engaging, it has to be said, in precautions, but also some panic buying of everything from sanitizers to toilet paper. But the latest news from the Ministry of Health is that 2 people, a 48-year-old visitor and a 39-year-old Barbadian, both individuals coming from the United States, have presented with symptoms which, when tested by the public health laboratory here, confirmed to be positive for the presence of COVID-19. So both cases from the United States. One person, the visitor at 48, came here on the 13th of March. The other, the Barbadian female, 39, recently returned. So we don't know exactly when that individual returned. What has happened is contact tracing. The Ministry of Health says going after every single person who may have had contact with these 2 individuals. We don't know if they came on the same flight. We don't know if they came on different flights. We suspect that they were not intercepted at the Grantley Adams International Airport, which has been doing routine temperature monitoring of people entering the country. So we can assume that they have been in contact with other individuals. And if those individuals are found, they will be put in quarantine. The additional measures that have been announced by the Ministry of Health, as Minister Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Bostic, retired Barbados Defense Force, announced this morning, as the country, he says, has entered into stage 1 of its preparedness plan, with the quarantine facilities and isolation facilities already in place and more coming on stream. We're now into the first full phase of what the experts and others have now called social distancing. It's going to directly affect practically every major public event in this country, we suspect, for the next 3 months. Yesterday, the Prime Minister indicated in a nationally televised interview that they have a 12-week window of looking at events and really suggesting that promoters cancel those events. The specific instruction now is that any gathering of over 100 people should not take place. So that rules out at least 3 major festivals in Barbados: Gospel Fest, the Oysters Fish Festival at Easter time, and the Barbados Reggae Festival. Notice that there's no mention yet of Crop Over. That begins officially in June, July, and therefore there is no indication yet that that festival is going to be put off this year. But other events, concerts, shows, they too have now been added to the list if they are to be held within the next 3 months. Visits to the geriatric hospital. Barbados has a number of hospitals where the elderly end their days, it has to be said, in a hospice-like environment, or who may be warded there for many, many years. Visits to the elderly in those hospitals now must be suspended, and visits to the General Hospital, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, will be restricted to those who are not elderly people. So those are the specific instructions that have been given today to the population, apart from the general public health instructions to continue to practice some measure of social distancing by staying at least 1 to 3 feet away from another person who may be coughing, to cough or sneeze into the crook of the arm, to wash hands frequently and use hand sanitizers, and other basic public hygiene practices. The Health Minister, Lieutenant Colonel Bostic, is urging Barbadians at this time to engage in. The most important one, it would appear from the government in repeated messaging throughout these past few weeks, is don't panic.
All right, so we want to thank you very much, Julius Gittins, and we will continue staying in contact with you as time progresses. Just as Julius Gittins, editor of Barbados Today. In Montserrat, a British overseas territory approximately 54 kilometers from Antigua, it is currently advising visitors to the island to rearrange their flights and depart earlier than they may have initially planned. This was agreed to in a cabinet meeting on March 15, as the international airlines have been implementing new measures which make return journeys increasingly difficult as time goes by. Fiona Alexander-Smith, director of the Montserrat Government Information Unit, had this to say.
A passenger on British Airways flight 2157 on Tuesday, March 10th from the United Kingdom to Antigua has tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. That is Antigua's first confirmed COVID-19 case. Over 80 Montserrat-bound passengers traveled on the said flight. Montserrat annually experiences its greatest surge in tourist arrivals during the March St. Patrick's Festival. Remaining St. Patrick's festivities were cancelled, and the Montserrat Cabinet informed the public of several precautionary measures, which included a restriction on public gatherings of more than 50 persons and closing all schools until April 3rd. More specific information will be shared later at a media press conference at 5 o'clock this afternoon, March 17. Director of Information and Communication for the Government of Montserrat, Fiona Alexander-Smith.
In Jamaica, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced new restrictions as part of the efforts to contain the coronavirus spread in his country. At a press conference on Monday evening at Jamaica House, the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, also said a total of 12 patients, not 15 as earlier reported, have tested positive for COVID-19. This because of the confirmatory tests for 3 persons coming back negative. Among the new measures announced by Prime Minister Holness, effective Wednesday, all non-essential employees in the private and the public sector should work from home for 7 days. No public gathering of more than 20 people, including for funerals and weddings. Bars, nightclubs, and other areas of entertainment must be closed. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company, or JUTC, will only carry seated passengers, and the taxis will be required to carry 1 fewer passengers than they are licensed to. All travelers to Jamaica from countries where there is a local spread of the virus will be self-required or will be required to self-quarantine for 2 weeks.